Viewer discretion is advised.
Karla Faye Tucker was an American woman sentenced to death for killing 2 people with a pickaxe during a burglary. She was the first woman to be executed in the United States since Velma Barfield in 1984 in North Carolina, and the first in Texas since Chipita Rodriguez in 1863. She was convicted of murder in Texas in 1984 and executed by lethal injection after 14 years on death row. Due to her gender and widely publicized conversion to Christianity, she inspired an unusually large national and international movement that advocated the commutation of her sentence to life without parole, a movement that included a few foreign government officials. Karla Tucker was born and raised in Houston, Texas, the youngest of 3 sisters. Her father, Larry, was a longshoreman. The marriage of her parents was troubled, and Tucker started smoking cigarettes with her sisters when she was 8 years old. During her parents' divorce proceedings when she was 10 years old, Tucker learned that her birth was the result of an extramarital affair. By age 12, she had begun taking drugs and having sex. She dropped out of school at age 14 and followed her mother, Carolyn, a rock groupie, into prostitution, and began traveling with the Allman Brothers Band, the Marshall Tucker Band, and the Eagles. At 16, she was briefly married to a handyman named Stephen Griffith. When she was in her early 20s, she began hanging out with bikers and met a woman named Shawn Dean and her husband, Jerry Lynn Dean. The couple introduced her in 1981 to a man named Daniel Ryan Garrett, or Danny. Then 21 years old, Tucker started dating 35-year-old Garrett. After spending the weekend using drugs with Garrett and his friends, Tucker and Garrett entered Jerry Dean's apartment in Houston, Texas around 3 a.m. on Monday, June 13, 1983, intending to steal a motorcycle that Dean was restoring there. James Leibrandt, a friend, went with them to Dean's apartment complex. Leibrandt reported that he went looking for Dean's El Camino, while Tucker and Garrett entered the apartment with a set of keys that Tucker claimed Shawn Dean had lost and Tucker had found. During the burglary, Tucker and Garrett entered Dean's bedroom, where Tucker sat on him. In an effort to protect himself, Dean grabbed Tucker above the elbows, whereupon Garrett intervened. Garrett struck Dean numerous times in the back of the head with a ball-peen hammer that he found on the floor. After hitting Dean, Garrett left the room to carry motorcycle parts out of the apartment. Tucker remained in the bedroom. The blows Garrett had dealt. Dean caused him to begin making a gurgling sound. Tucker wanted to stop him from making that noise, and she then picked up a 3-foot pickaxe that was lying against the wall and began hitting Dean. Garrett then re-entered the room and dealt Dean a final blow in the chest. Garrett left the bedroom again to continue loading Dean's motorcycle parts into his El Camino. Tucker was once again left in the room and only then noticed a woman who had hidden under the bed covers against the wall. The woman, Deborah Ruth Thornton, had argued with her husband the day before, went to a party, and ended up spending the night in Dean's bed. Upon discovering Thornton, Tucker grazed her shoulder with the pickaxe. Thornton and Tucker began to struggle, but Garrett returned and separated them. Tucker proceeded to hit Thornton repeatedly with the pickaxe and then embedded the axe in her heart. Tucker would later tell people and testify that she experienced multiple intense orgasms with each blow of the pickaxe. The next morning, one of Dean's co-workers, who had been waiting for a ride, entered the apartment and discovered the victims' bodies. Police investigation led to the arrests of Tucker and Garrett 5 weeks after the killings.
5 o'clock in the evening after a hard day's work, and I get in and my phone rings, and the first thing I know, guy's on the phone saying, my dad's on the phone saying, "Hey, you need to come over to the shop." I'm like, "What's up?" He says, "Your sister's been murdered." I'm like, "No, Sure enough, She was. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe they'd kill my sister.
In September 1983, Tucker and Garrett were indicted for murder and tried separately for the crimes. Tucker was charged with the murders of both Dean and Thornton, but after she testified against Garrett at his trial, the charge for the murder of Thornton was dropped. Garrett was not charged with Thornton's death either. Tucker entered a plea of not guilty and was jailed awaiting trial. Soon after being imprisoned, Tucker took a Bible from the prison ministry program and read it in her cell. She later recalled, "I didn't know what I was reading. Before I knew it, I was in the middle of my cell floor on my knees. I was just asking God to forgive me." Tucker became a Christian in October 1983. She later married by proxy to her prison minister, Reverend Dana Lane Brown, in 1995, and held her Christian wedding ceremony inside the prison. Though the death penalty was hardly ever sought for female killers, Tucker, along with Garrett, was sentenced to death in late 1984. Garrett died of liver disease in 1993 while awaiting execution. Tucker shared her death row cell at the Mountain View unit with Pam Perillo, whose own sentence was eventually commuted. Between 1984 and 1992, requests for a retrial and appeals were denied. But on June 22nd, Tucker requested that her life be spared on the basis that she was under the influence of drugs at the time of the murders. Tucker said that she was now a reformed person, and if she had not taken the drugs, the murders would never have been committed. Her plea drew support from abroad and also from some leaders of American conservatism. Among those who appealed to the state of Texas on her behalf were Baker Wally Ndiaye, the United Nations Commissioner on Summary and Arbitrary Executions, the World Council of Churches, Pope John Paul II, Italian Prime Minister Romano Prodi, the Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives Newt Gingrich, televangelist Pat Robertson, and Ronald Carlson, the brother of Tucker's murder victim Debbie Thornton. The warden of Texas's Huntsville prison testified that she was a model prisoner and that, after 14 years on death row, she likely had been reformed. The board rejected her appeal on January 28, 1998. Hours before the execution, Texas Governor George W. Bush refused the final 11th-hour appeal to block her execution.
The courts, including the United States Supreme Court, have reviewed the legal issues in this case, and therefore I will not grant a 30-day stay. May God bless Karla Faye Tucker, and God bless her victims and their families.
In Texas, the governor cannot stay the execution of a prisoner. They can only approve the recommendation of the parole board, and that is rarely ever given. Capital cases cannot be freed from prison, but commuted to life imprisonment. While on death row, Tucker was incarcerated in the Mountain View unit in Gatesville, Texas. She became Texas Department of Criminal Justice Death Row Inmate 777. On February 2, 1998, state authorities took Tucker from the unit in Gatesville and flew her on a TDCJ aircraft, transporting her to the Huntsville unit. For her last meal, Tucker requested a banana, a peach, and a garden salad with ranch dressing. She selected 4 people to watch her die, who included her sister Kari Weeks, her husband Dana Brown, her close friend Jackie Onken, and Ronald Carlson. At one time, Carlson had supported the execution, but after a religious conversion, he decided that he was now opposed to all executions.
Thornton's husband says people should not feel any compassion for Tucker.
The same person who looks out from that television set is the same person who looked straight at my wife and threw a pickaxe into her body.
For me, what's weird is thinking back on some of the things that I used to do and thinking, I did that?
Prison officials say she met with family from 8 until about noon. They hope to make her final hours as calm as possible, but say this will not be an easy day for anyone.
That's a traumatic situation for everybody involved, not only for the inmate, but also the inmates' families, for our correctional officers, and we try to keep...
There appears to be little chance the courts will stop the execution, but there are demonstrators here asking the sentence be commuted to life in prison.
The witnesses for the murder victims included Thornton's husband, Richard, Thornton's only child, William Joseph Davis, and Thornton's stepdaughter, Katie. Tucker's execution was also witnessed by members of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, Warden Baggett, and various representatives of the media. Her last words were,
"Yes, sir. I would like to say to all of you, the Thornton family and Jerry Dean's family, I hope God will give you peace with this."
She looked at her husband.
"Baby, I love you."
She looked at Ronald Carlson.
"Ron, give Peggy a hug for me."
She looked at all present, weeping and smiling.
"Everybody has been so good to me. I love all of you very much. I am going to be face to face with Jesus now. Warden Baggett, thank all of you so much."
She was executed by lethal injection on February 3, 1998. As the deadly chemicals were being administered, she praised Jesus Christ, licked her lips, looked at the ceiling, and hummed. She was pronounced dead at 6:45 p.m. CST, 8 minutes after receiving the injection. She was buried at Forest Park Lawndale Cemetery in Houston.
When they brought in Karla Faye, I stayed back there with her. Now, definitely that was the first female that we were fixing to execute. I remember one thing so vividly, that it was an hour before, and I was standing there, and the chaplain was standing there, and she looked at me and she goes, "Thank you, Captain Allen, for everything you've done." I said, "You're welcome." You know, that's all I could say. And what else am I going to say? I'm fixing to strap you down another hour. Which we went, procedure and everything went just the way it was supposed to, you know. She was pronounced dead. I went back in there and I took the straps off, put her, you know, in the gurney, and let's go. We locked everything up and went about our business, and everything was fine. I had a little shop in the back, and it was 6 o'clock, and the news come on over the radio and started again. And for some reason, just out of the blue, hearing it triggered me seeing her, and I started shaking. Oh, what's wrong? And then
how badly did you shake?
It was a shake. It was a shake like I couldn't. Why am I shaking? And then I could see I was sweating, and tears. All of a sudden, and this is hurting.
Okay, here you go.
It's amazing what a woman in a 6x9 cell can reach so many people. She'd just like to say, Karla, I would if she was here, that she'd like to thank you, and we just appreciate you coming, and pray that you would share who she really is and who she has been for the last 14 and a half years. And that's a Christian that loved God with all of her heart. And her gain today was our loss. Someone that has literally reached thousands of people for Jesus Christ, and probably will continue through her testimony. And even though she cried out for forgiveness, God gave her just what she needed, and that was love. And that's what we all need. And we just pray that, although there's great people in TDC, and I respect them tremendously, they've been most courteous, most cordial with us through the whole procedure, especially the last week or so. But we feel like the system and the process has got to be changed. And that's no greater evidence than with Karla. But there's others besides Karla. We've got 5 coming up this month, it's my understanding. You know, I wish every one of y'all was there at their dates or at their executions. I mean, it doesn't make any difference if they're a man or a woman. They're just a human being. We've all made mistakes in our lives, and who are we to say when a person is past redemption? And that's what we're saying when we kill people, human beings. And if it wasn't by what Jesus did on the cross for us, there wouldn't be any hope for any of us. But he endured till the end, and Karla endured till the end, and she's face to face with him tonight, and that's the reason why I can stand here before you right now. It's because I know where she is, and I just pray that every single one of us can get there too. And I have no intentions of writing a book.
I'd like to introduce myself to you folks that don't know my voice and my face. My name is Ronald Carlson. I'm the brother of the deceased Deborah Thornton. And I just want you folks to know that what I witnessed here today was a pure atrocity. The state of Texas, how they destroyed a very important person. They took the life of Karla Faye Tucker today, but I want you to know they only killed her body. Her spirit still lives on. It will continue through all of us. Jesus Christ has taken her up to be in heaven with her, and her spirit will continue. That's all I have to say. God be with you.
I got it.
So I can look at it when I get